Something extraordinary just transpired in Canadian politics. Another Conservative MP has crossed the floor, not quietly, not unwillingly, but directly because of Mark Carney's leadership. And now, in just 3 months, Pierre Poilievre has lost 3 MPs from his own ranks. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a trend. And according to political pundits, it is an indication of deeper difficulties inside the Conservative caucus and a rising appeal toward Carney's vision for Canada.
Under most normal circumstances, the US president does not typically have the power to impose tariffs. This is plain as day, bedrock constitutional consensus, which reads, Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes and duties. Congress, not the president. To get around this, Trump often invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEPA, which the US Supreme Court has now dismantled in exactly 10 words. Held, as in upheld, IEPA does not authorize the president to impose tariffs.
Let's start with what the newest Liberal MP actually said. He frankly confessed that Mark Carney's Davos speech changed everything for him, that it opened eyes, that it altered how serious Canada's national moment really is, and most crucially that he felt it was hypocritical to stay on the sidelines any longer. That is not opportunism. That is political realignment. According to sources, he went out to the Prime Minister's office directly after being convinced by Carney's posture on the world stage. This is crucial because it means Carney is not just managing government. He is altering political gravity. What makes this much more explosive is why opposition members are crossing. It is not only domestic policy. It is Carney's worldwide leadership posture. Reports specifically underline that his Davos address and pro-Canada global positioning made the political moment appear more serious and compelling to certain Conservatives. This is a rare phenomenon. Opposition members are not being influenced by short-term politics. They are being swayed by long-term strategic orientation. Analysts have remarked that several of Carney's ideas are viewed as more center-right than previous Liberal leadership, making them more attractive to Conservative members. That is a strategic crossover zone, and Carney is occupying it.
Even on Liberation Day, we had China who retaliated. There's been a back and forth between Canada. But this is actually a net benefit for Canada. So those non-CUSMA originating goods are currently facing something like a 35% tariff. That will go down to 15% while these measures are in place. So you actually have quite a few countries who are going to benefit from this new tariff regime in terms of some tariff relief.
While Carney is expanding influence, Poilievre is being pulled into defensive positioning. Instead of dominating headlines on affordability and inflation, his primary political territory, the emphasis has switched to worries about leadership and caucus stability. Analysts on the broadcast made this point directly. His messaging week has been overshadowed by internal political issues and leadership criticism. That is a strategic loss of agenda control. And in politics, losing control of the agenda is sometimes more costly than losing a single vote. Then followed the most politically damaging admission. Analysts have indicated explicitly that Pierre Poilievre has now lost 3 party members. And that is a lot. It's not a favorable trend for any opposition leader. Let that sink in. Not one. Not an isolated defection. 3 opposition MPs, plus internal difficulties with renegade messaging and caucus management being openly discussed. This converts the narrative from a single crossing into a leadership stability matter because, in parliamentary politics, caucus cohesion equals power, and splits in caucus signify loss of internal confidence. Then came the structural analysis. Commentators describe this not as an isolated event, but as part of a broader schism inside the Conservative coalition, a party which is struggling to balance regional factions, U.S. relations positioning, and internal ideological tensions, and now facing discomfort among members as Carney carves out a strong pro-Canada positioning internationally. That last aspect is crucial since it implies this is not simply about personality, it is about direction. Reports also confirm something politically big. This floor crossing moves the Liberals 1 seat closer to a majority government, and commentators openly describe the current political scenario as potentially historic depending on impending by-elections and further crossings. There are also continuous speculations mentioned on television concerning the potential of further opposition lawmakers adopting similar moves. If that materializes, the political map shifts substantially.
Yes, Trump has already ordered a new 10% global tariff through a different legal avenue than IEPA, which may wind up simply replacing the old one the Supreme Court now considers illegal.
So this global 10% tariff, the tool that Donald Trump is using, he can only impose this tariff for 150 days. There's a time limit on it. And at the end of that 150 days, Congress has to say, okay, we're going to extend this, or nah, bro, no, we're not. And in the meantime, this gives the Trump administration a whole whack of months to do investigations into different sectors to say, hey, we might want to put some tariffs on this sector over here. Oh, hey, this industry, maybe we want to do a tariff over there.
While I am sure that they did not mean to do so, the Supreme Court's decision today made a president's ability to both regulate trade and impose tariffs more powerful and more crystal clear.
The estimate I've seen most often is that the Supreme Court ruling throws into question somewhere between $140 and $175 billion in tariff revenue raised so far. Should that money be returned?
What makes this development politically volatile is not simply the floor crossing itself. It is the source of the validation. This is not praise coming from liberal members. This is not message from government allies. This is credibility coming from within the opposition ecosystem itself. When a sitting conservative MP explicitly states that Mark Carney's Davos speech impacted his political calculus, that is not normal politics. That is ideological disruption. It suggests that Carney's leadership is being regarded not only as partisan government, but as a national direction. And that distinction important because in parliamentary politics, crossing the floor is one of the most consequential political gestures an MP can undertake. It harms reputation, it risks voter wrath, it risks long-term professional ramifications. And yet, despite those risks, opposition members are making that move, not because of a short-term scandal, nor because of internal disarray alone, but because they believe the country is entering a significant period that requires alignment with a different sort of leadership. That is a major political signal. It shows that Carney's appeal is growing beyond conventional liberal borders and approaching the ideological realm that conservatives historically dominated: economic credibility, global standing, and national seriousness. Meanwhile, for Pierre Poilievre, this creates a compounding difficulty because every floor crossing does not only diminish numbers, it raises doubts inside the caucus. Questions about direction, questions about unity, questions about leadership durability. And once such questions begin circulating internally, the political pressure is no longer external. It becomes structural. This is how political momentum gradually shifts, not through big speeches, but through small realignments of trust, credibility, and confidence across party lines. And right now, that realignment appears to be happening in real time. Mark Carney is not working like a traditional politician. His brand is being regarded as non-political, driven by higher goals rather than tactical tactics. And that image is resonating so deeply that opposition members are choosing alignment over opposition. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre faces the increasingly difficult challenge of explaining why his own caucus is displaying indications of division at a time when Carney is consolidating authority, attracting international legitimacy, and reshaping Canada's global position. 3 opposition members in 3 months is not noise. It is a signal that political momentum is shifting. And in politics, momentum is important. If you want clear, fact-driven commentary on the political developments influencing Canada's future and the leadership dynamics behind the headlines, please sure to subscribe to the channel. We break down the strategy, the momentum, and the real ramifications that others often overlook. Let me know your thoughts below since this narrative is far from over.